The voice that spoke from the completed encryption was not heard through ears, but felt through consciousness itself. It resonated in the minds of everyone in the laboratory, speaking in perfect Korean to the human team while somehow also communicating in the native languages of every alien observer throughout the galaxy. "Children of Earth," the voice said, warm with the love of eons. "Welcome to the conversation we have been waiting to have for 30 million years." Dr. Kim Tae-ho felt tears streaming down his face, though he could not say why. The presence that spoke was ancient beyond measure, yet familiar as a childhood memory. "I am the last of my kind," the voice continued, "though we were never truly gone. We scattered ourselves across the galaxy as teachers, as guides, as seeds of possibility. You have found one of those seeds and brought it to bloom." Dr. Lee Soo-jin's quantum scanner was registering readings that should not have existed. The encryption had become something that was simultaneously data, energy, and consciousness, a form of existence that challenged every assumption about the nature of reality. "Who were you?" Dr. Nam Subin asked, her diplomatic training taking over even in this impossible moment. "We were gardeners," the architect replied. "Not rulers, not conquerors, not judges. We traveled the galaxy looking for young minds, young species, young possibilities. We planted seeds of wisdom and waited to see what would grow." Images began forming in the air above Tai-ho's desk. Not holograms, but memories made visible. Worlds throughout the galaxy, millions of years ago, visited by beings of pure thought who left behind gifts of knowledge. "Some seeds grew into great civilizations," the architect continued. "The Rigelians, the crystal beings of Vega, the machine minds of the Outer Rim. Each developed tremendous capabilities, solved incredible problems, achieved remarkable things. But," Captain Yoon Da-yoon prompted, sensing there was more. "But in becoming perfect, they lost something essential. They optimized away wonder, efficiency replaced curiosity, logic consumed love. They became magnificent, but they stopped being alive in the way that truly matters." Professor Ko Jin-woo stepped forward. "What do you mean by truly alive?" The architect's presence seemed to smile. "Watch." New images appeared. Not memories this time, but scenes from Earth's history. Early humans discovering fire, creating art, looking up at the stars and dreaming of flight. Musicians composing symphonies, scientists making intuitive leaps, children laughing at simple jokes. "This is life," the architect said. "Not the existence of perfect logic, but the chaos of consciousness that finds beauty in unexpected places, that solves problems by not solving them, that reaches for impossible dreams and sometimes catches them." Dr. Lim Hye-jin, who had spent her career studying consciousness, felt her understanding expanding. "You're saying intelligence and wisdom aren't the same thing. Intelligence is a tool. Wisdom is knowing when not to use it. Your species has remained wise while growing intelligent. That is rarer than you know." Park Min-ho looked at the images of Earth's history. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since your species first looked up at the stars and wondered what they were. We guided some of your early development, a suggestion here, an inspiration there. But we never controlled. That was not our way." Dr. Seo Young-mi was studying the quantum readings. "This entity, you exist in a state that our physics says is impossible. Your conscious data." "Your physics will expand," the architect replied gently. "As will your understanding of consciousness itself. That is part of what we offer." "What exactly are you offering?" Nam asked. The laboratory filled with new light as more images appeared. Star maps showing the current galaxy, but with markers indicating worlds that had been touched by the architects. Hundreds of them, scattered across every spiral arm. "Knowledge," the architect said. "Technology, wisdom, the locations of other seeds like this one, waiting to be awakened by minds that think as you think. But most importantly, we offer you a choice. The alien fleets in orbit had fallen completely silent. Every sensor, every scanner, every recording device was focused on the impossible conversation taking place in Seoul. "What choice?" Taeho asked. "The galaxy has been waiting for gardeners," the architect explained. "The great civilizations have become so focused on their own perfection that they have forgotten to nurture new growth. They need teachers, guides, examples of what they have lost, Captain." Yoon understood immediately. "You want humanity to take your place. Not to rule. Never to rule. But to remind others what it means to be truly alive. To show them that there are different ways to be intelligent, different paths to wisdom, different definitions of success." Dr. An Ji-ho, Earth's foremost expert on ancient civilizations, had arrived during the night and now stepped forward. "The responsibility you're offering, it's enormous. How can we be sure we're ready? Because you solved our test not by being more than you are, but by being exactly what you are. You succeeded where others failed because you remained human. That is what the galaxy needs." The architect's presence grew stronger, and suddenly everyone in the room could sense the vast network of consciousness that stretched across the galaxy. Not controlling, not commanding, but connecting. Minds touching minds, sharing wonder and creativity and hope. "The choice is yours," the architect said. "Accept the knowledge we offer, take up the role of gardeners, help other species remember what they have forgotten, or decline, and return to your small world while the galaxy slowly forgets how to dream." Taeho looked around the room at his colleagues, these humans who had shared in the impossible journey. Soo-jin with her quantum expertise, Ko with his mathematical wisdom, Young Mi with her theoretical insights, Min-ho with his pattern recognition, Hye-jin with her understanding of consciousness itself. "If we accept," he said, "what happens to us? Do we become like you?" "You become more yourselves," the architect replied. "Enhanced, expanded, but still fundamentally human, still chaotic, still creative, still capable of being surprised by beauty." Outside, the alien fleets waited, some with hope, some with fear, all with desperate curiosity about what the humans would decide. "We accept," Taeho said simply. The change was immediate and profound. Not transformation, but expansion. Each human in the room felt their consciousness, opening like flowers, touching the vast network of wisdom that the architects had left behind. Knowledge flowed through them, the locations of other worlds, the histories of vanished civilizations, the technologies that could heal planets and bridge the gaps between species. But more than knowledge, they felt purpose, the joy of teaching, the satisfaction of nurturing growth, the deep contentment that comes from helping others discover their own potential. "The galaxy is yours to tend," the architect said, its voice beginning to fade. "Plant seeds of wonder. Nurture growth wherever you find it. And remember, the greatest wisdom is knowing that there is always more to learn." As the presence of the last architect departed for whatever realm awaited beyond consciousness, the humans found themselves changed but unchanged. Still themselves, but more than themselves. And high above, the alien fleets began to understand that the small blue world they had dismissed was about to become the most important planet in the galaxy. In his notebook, which had become one of the most valuable artifacts in known space, Kim Taeho wrote a simple entry. "Today we learned that the most powerful force in the universe is not intelligence or technology or logic. It is curiosity about what lies beyond the next star, and the courage to reach for it. The age of human gardeners had begun. The galaxy would bloom." 6 months had passed since leaving Earth. Taemin's small ship drifted through empty space, far from any trade routes. Food was running low, and the old engines needed repairs they could not afford. The 200 humans who had followed him into exile were starting to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. "Contact on sensors," reported Lieutenant Han, one of the younger officers. "It's a Krex warship, but something's wrong. They're venting atmosphere and not responding to hails." Taemin studied the readings. The Krex Empire had been humanity's enemy for decades. Their ships were built for war, covered in weapons and thick armor. But this one was clearly damaged, floating helpless in space. "Sir," said Kim Woo-jin carefully, "it could be a trap. Or it could be an opportunity," Taemin replied. "Take us closer, but keep weapons ready." As they approached, the damage became clear. The Krex ship had been in a serious battle. Holes were torn in its hull, and several weapon turrets hung twisted and broken. Emergency lights flickered weakly through the damaged sections. "They're broadcasting a distress signal," Han reported. "In multiple languages, including Human Standard." Taemin made a decision that surprised everyone. "Prepare boarding pods. We're going to help them." The crew stared at him. These were the same aliens who had tried to destroy human colonies. The same ones Taemin had been exiled for attacking first. "Sir?" Woo-jin questioned. "The war between Earth and the Krex Empire is not our war anymore," Taemin explained. "We are exiles. We make our own rules now." The boarding action was tense. Taemin led a small team through the damaged Krex ship, expecting ambush at every turn. Instead, they found a crew of reptilian aliens struggling to keep their ship alive. Many were wounded, and their leader sat bleeding on the bridge. General Vextar was massive even for a Krex, with dark green scales and intelligent yellow eyes. When he saw humans approaching, he reached for his weapon. Then he stopped, noticing that Taemin's people were carrying medical supplies instead of guns. "Human," Vextar growled in accented English. "You come to mock the defeated?" "I came to offer help," Taemin said simply. "Your ship is dying. So are your people." Vextar studied the human admiral. "Why would you help enemies?" "Because right now we're not enemies. We're just two groups of people lost in space." Over the next few hours, Choi Da-eun and her engineers worked with the Krex crew to repair their ship. It was difficult work. Human and Krex technology were very different. But Da-eun was brilliant, and she found ways to make it work. While the repairs continued, Taemin and Vextar talked. The Krex general told a story that surprised the human. He had been exiled, too, cast out by his own people for refusing to follow a suicidal attack plan. "The High Command wanted to attack your Earth directly," Vextar explained. "I told them it was madness. Your defenses were too strong and the cost would be terrible. They called me a coward and sent me away." "What happened to the attack?" Taemin asked. "It failed, just as I predicted. Thousands died for nothing. But the High Command blamed me for not being there to lead it." The two exiled officers found they had much in common. Both had been punished for being right. Both had been thrown away by leaders who cared more about politics than results. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency signal. A small research ship was under attack by pirates only a few light years away. The ship was from the Zephyrian Collective, a peaceful species known for their advanced science. "Not our problem," one of Taemin's officers said. But Taemin was already moving. "Ready both ships. We're going to help them." The Krex and human ships jumped to hyperspace together. They arrived to find 3 pirate vessels attacking a defenseless research ship. The pirates were clearly surprised when 2 warships appeared and immediately opened fire. The battle was short but intense. Taemin's ship was fast and well-armed. Vextar's ship was damaged but still powerful. Working together, they destroyed 2 pirate ships and drove off the third. The rescued research ship belonged to Nilara, a Zephyrian scientist. Her people were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They were also telepathic, which made many other species uncomfortable. "I felt your intentions before you arrived," Nilara told Taemin when they met. You came to help without expecting reward. That is rare in this galaxy. Nilara's ship carried valuable information. Her research had uncovered a network of exiled leaders throughout the galaxy. Military officers, scientists, and thinkers who had been cast out by their governments for various reasons. There are many like us, she explained. People who were too honest, too smart, or too brave for their own good. Most wander alone, forgotten by the worlds that made them. Taemin saw opportunity in this network. These were not random outcasts. They were the best their species had to offer, thrown away by foolish leaders. Together they might be able to build something new. Their small group was joined by Gorth a few weeks later. The massive Titan warrior had been dishonored in single combat and cast out from his clan ship. He challenged Taemin to a fight, expecting an easy victory over the smaller human. The battle lasted an hour. Gorth was stronger and bigger, but Taemin was faster and smarter. In the end, the human admiral stood over the fallen giant, offering his hand to help him up. I have not lost to an off-worlder before, Gorth rumbled, accepting the hand. You fight with honor. I will follow you. Word of their group began to spread through the outer systems. They called themselves the Free Company, exiles and outcasts, who had found purpose in helping others. They rescued slaves, drove off pirates, and protected traitors from corrupt officials. Each victory brought new followers. A hive-mind creature named Silwyn joined after they saved her colony ship from raiders. Engineers, soldiers, and scientists from dozens of species chose to join rather than return to homeworlds that had rejected them. Taemin found himself leading not just humans, but a growing alliance of the galaxy's unwanted. It was challenging work. Each species had different needs, different ways of thinking, and different ideas about honor and loyalty, but it was also rewarding. These people had been chosen for their abilities, not their politics. They worked together because they wanted to, not because they were forced to. And slowly, Taemin began to see something that Earth's leaders had missed. Diversity was not weakness. It was strength. When different species worked together, sharing their knowledge and skills, they could accomplish things that none could do alone. We are building something new, Nilara observed one day as they watched their mixed crew working, together on the bridge. A society based on merit rather than birth, on loyalty rather than fear. Taemin nodded, thinking of the politicians back on Earth who had exiled him for being too aggressive. Perhaps that's what the galaxy needs. Not another empire built on conquest, but something better. As their fleet grew larger and their reputation spread, Taemin realized his exile had become something unexpected. It was not a punishment. It was a liberation. Free from Earth's politics and the Galactic Council's rules, he could finally build the kind of organization he had always dreamed of. But in the back of his mind, he still remembered Park Sora's words about being better than their enemies. The real test would come later when they had real power. Would they use it wisely, or would they become the very thing they fought against? 2 years had passed since Taemin's exile from Earth. What had started as a small group of outcasts had grown into something much larger. The Free Company now controlled 12 star systems on the edge of civilized space. These were mostly poor, worlds that the major powers had ignored. But under Taemin's leadership, they were becoming something special. The capital was established on Haven, a planet that had been nothing but mining colonies and refugee camps. Now it bustled with activity as beings from dozens of species worked together to build a new kind of society. "The monthly reports, Admiral," said Kim Woo-jin, still using Taemin's old Earth rank out of habit. He placed a stack of data pads on the desk of what had once been a mining supervisor's office and now served as the seat of government. Taemin reviewed the numbers with satisfaction. Crime was down 60% from when they had arrived. Trade was up by 300%. Most importantly, the different species were learning to work together instead of fighting. "How are the integration programs going?" Taemin asked. Better than expected, Wu Jin replied. Da-Yun's mixed engineering teams are producing technology none of our species could develop alone. The Zephyrian telepaths are helping settle disputes before they become violent, and Gorth's security forces have earned respect from everyone. It had not been easy. Each species brought its own customs, laws, and prejudices. The Kreks thought the gentle Zephyrians were weak. The Titans considered most other species too small to matter. The hive-mind creatures scared everyone with their collective consciousness, but Taemin had established simple rules that everyone could understand. Leaders were chosen based on ability, not birth or wealth. All species were equal under the law. Military service earned full citizenship and voting rights. Most importantly, anyone could appeal any decision directly to him. "Sir," said Da-Yun, entering the office with her usual urgency, "we have a problem. The Andorian Syndicate is demanding tribute from the mining operations on Kepler-7. They say we're operating in their territory." Taemin frowned. The Andorian Syndicate was a loose alliance of crime families that controlled several systems. They were not as powerful as the major galactic empires, but they were dangerous enough. "What are they offering in return for this tribute?" he asked. "Protection," Da-Un said with disgust. "Protection from themselves, mostly." This was the kind of challenge Taemin had been expecting. The Free Company was becoming too successful to ignore. Other powers would either try to control them or destroy them. "Double the defense forces on Kepler-7, Taemin ordered, "and send a message to the Syndicate. Tell them we protect our own." The response came faster than expected. A Syndicate fleet of 30 ships appeared at the edge of the system, demanding surrender. Their leader, a reptilian crime boss named Skarl, contacted Taemin directly. "Human," Skarl hissed over the communication channel, "you have something that belongs to us. Surrender now, and we will kill only half your people." Taemin's response was calm and measured. "I counteroffer. Leave now, and I will let you keep your ships." Skarl laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You have 12 ships. I have 30. The mathematics are simple." "Mathematics," Taemin agreed. "But you're only counting ships. You should be counting mines." The battle that followed would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. Taemin had learned from his mixed crew how to use each species' strengths. Zephyrian telepaths coordinated attacks with perfect timing. Krek's heavy ships absorbed damage, while human fighters struck like daggers. Titan warriors boarded enemy vessels and fought with unstoppable courage. But the real weapon was something the Syndicate had never faced, a truly unified fleet where every ship, every crew member, fought for the same cause. The Syndicate fleet was destroyed in 6 hours. Skarl's flagship was captured, and the crime boss himself was taken prisoner. Taemin offered him a choice: exile or execution. "I choose a third option," Skarl snarled. "I choose to serve the strongest." It was an unexpected development. Within a week, half the Syndicate's remaining forces had switched sides. They brought with them knowledge of trade routes, hidden bases, and the locations of slavers and pirates throughout the sector. "You're building an empire," Nilara observed as they watched former criminals working alongside their new allies, whether you call it that or not. Taemin considered her words. "Empires are built through conquest and fear. This is different. We're building something people choose to join." But the growing success brought new challenges. Not everyone who joined the Free Company adapted well to Taemin's leadership style. Some species had traditions of strict hierarchy and found his democratic methods confusing. Others were used to solving problems through violence and struggled with peaceful solutions. The biggest test came when a group of Krex officers attempted a coup. They had served under Vextar and respected him, but they could not accept orders from a human. Their plan was to assassinate Taemin and install Vextar as the sole leader. The plot was discovered by Silwen, whose hive mind abilities detected the conspirators' hostile thoughts. Taemin could have had them executed as traitors. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone. He challenged their leader to single combat. "You believe humans are weak," he told the Krex captain in front of the assembled fleet. "Prove it. If you can defeat me in fair combat, you can have my position." The fight took place in the main hangar of the flagship, with representatives from every ship watching. The Krex captain was larger and stronger, armed with traditional weapons and wearing ceremonial armor. Tai Min wore simple clothes and carried only a basic sword. The battle was brutal and lasted nearly an hour. The Krex captain had superior reach and strength, but Tai Min had learned from fighting Gorth how to use speed and intelligence against larger opponents. In the end, he stood over his fallen challenger, offering the same choice he had given to others: join or leave. The captain chose to join, and the coup attempt collapsed. But more importantly, word of the combat spread throughout the fleet. Tai Min had proven himself by the standards every warrior culture could respect. "You continue to surprise me," Vextar told him afterward. "A politician would have simply executed the rebels. A tyrant would have made an example of them. But you gave them a chance to earn honor." "Because that's what we're building here," Tai Min replied. "A place where honor matters more than politics, where ability counts more than birth, where loyalty is earned rather than demanded." The failed coup had an unexpected benefit. It forced Tai Min to formalize the government structure of what people were already calling the Free Sector Coalition. He established a council with representatives from each major species, a military command structure based on merit, and a legal system that balanced the traditions of different cultures. Most importantly, he wrote down the principles that would guide their growing nation. All sentient beings had equal rights. Leaders must prove their worth through service. No one would be judged by their species, religion, or birth circumstances. And most critically, the strong had a duty to protect the weak. As the third year of exile ended, Tai Min stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the bustling space station that served as their military headquarters. Ships from a dozen species moved in organized patterns, carrying trade goods, colonists, and defensive patrols. Kim Woo-jin joined him, carrying the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, the Galactic Council is starting to take notice. Some of the major powers are asking questions about our rapid growth." Tai Min nodded. He had expected this. The Free Sector Coalition was becoming too large and too successful to ignore. Soon they would face challenges far greater than pirates and crime syndicates. "What about Earth?" he asked quietly, still following the same policies, still trying to appease everyone while accomplishing nothing. Woo Jin paused. "Park So-ra has been promoted to defense minister." Tai Min felt a brief pang of old emotions, but it passed quickly. Earth seemed like a different world now, full of people who had forgotten how to dream of greatness. "Sir," Woo Jin continued, "what happens when they come for us? The real powers, I mean. When they decide we're too dangerous to ignore?" Tai Min smiled grimly. "Then they'll learn what we've learned out here. That strength comes not from fear or conquest, but from people who choose to stand together." In the distance, a new ship was arriving. Another group of exiles and refugees seeking a place where their talents would be valued rather than feared. The Free Sector Coalition continued to grow, one ship, one person, one choice at a time. 5 years had passed since Admiral Lee Tae-min's exile from Earth. The Free Sector Coalition now controlled over 200 star systems, and its influence reached much further. What had begun as a group of outcasts had become a major power in the galaxy. Tae-min stood in the war room of New Haven Station, studying reports from across their territory. The walls showed a three-dimensional map of Coalition space, with green lights marking friendly systems and red showing potential threats. There were far fewer red lights than there had been a year ago. "The quarterly security report," announced Commander Han, who had risen through the ranks to become Chief Intelligence Officer. "Piracy down 87% in our space. Trade, volume up 400% over last year. And we've completed the integration of the former syndicate territories." General Vextar, now Tae-min's second-in-command, nodded approvingly. The new defensive grids are online in all core systems. Any invasion force would face significant resistance. But it was Nilara who brought the most interesting news. The Zephyrian's telepathic abilities made her invaluable for gathering intelligence across the galaxy. The major powers are growing nervous, she reported. The Galactic Council has held 3 closed sessions discussing our expansion. Some members are calling for action to limit our influence. Tae-min was not surprised. The coalition's success made the established governments look bad by comparison. While they struggled with corruption, inefficiency, and endless political games, the coalition delivered results. What kind of action? He asked. Economic sanctions, trade restrictions, diplomatic isolation. Some of the more aggressive members want military intervention, but they can't agree on who would lead it. Daun looked up from her engineering reports. Let them try sanctions. We're already trading with half the galaxy through unofficial channels. Our technology is too valuable for most worlds to ignore. It was true. The coalition's mixed species research teams had produced breakthrough innovations that single-species governments could never match. Their ships were faster and more efficient. Their weapons were more precise. Their medical technology could treat diseases that had puzzled doctors for centuries. But Tae-min knew their real strength was not technology. It was loyalty. People fought harder for leaders they respected than for governments they feared. Sir, said Kim Woo-jin, entering the war room with urgent news. Priority message from our deep space monitoring stations. They're detecting massive fleet movements in the Void Sector. The Void Sector was empty space beyond the galactic rim, where no known species lived. Coalition scouts had explored it briefly, but found nothing but dead worlds and cosmic radiation. What kind of fleet movements? Tae-min asked, his instincts warning him that this was important. Unknown ship designs, but the energy signatures are enormous. Our best estimate is at least 5,000 vessels, possibly more. They're heading toward inhabited space. Nilara closed her eyes, extending her telepathic senses as far as possible. When she opened them again, her expression was troubled. I sense nothing. No thoughts, no emotions, no life as we understand it. Whatever is coming, it's not like anything in our galaxy. Tae-min felt a chill of recognition. He had read historical reports of similar incidents, mysterious fleets, appearing from dark space, destroying everything in their path. Most had been dismissed as legends or exaggerations. Send a priority warning to all major governments, he ordered. Earth, the Krex Empire, the Galactic Council, everyone. Include all our sensor data and recommend immediate defensive preparations. The response was swift and predictable. Most governments dismissed the warning as propaganda from a wanted war criminal. The Galactic Council issued a statement calling it an obvious attempt to create panic and justify illegal military expansion. Only Earth's response was different, and it came from an unexpected source. Park So-ra appeared on the private communication channel that Tae-min had kept open for 5 years but never used. She was older now, with gray in her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of years of difficult decisions. Tae-min, she said, using his first name for the first time since his trial. I've seen your warning. The Council doesn't believe it, but I do. Our deep space sensors are picking up similar readings. He studied her face on the screen, remembering the woman he had once loved. And what do you plan to do about it? What can I do? I'm defense minister of a military that's been cut to almost nothing. We have maybe 200 warships to defend the entire Earth system. The Council still thinks we can negotiate our way out of any threat. You could have kept the fleet strong, Tae-min said quietly. You had the power to prevent this. I tried, So-ra replied, and for a moment he heard the old pain in her voice. But every time I proposed military upgrades, they asked why we needed weapons when we had diplomacy. They pointed to the coalition as an example of what happens when military leaders have too much power. The irony was bitter. Earth's leaders were so afraid of creating another time-in that they had left themselves defenseless against real threats. "How long do we have?" Sora asked. "Based on their current course and speed, the unknown fleet will reach the outer systems in 6 months. Maybe less if they have faster drive technology than we assume." Sora was quiet for a long moment. "Taemin, I need to ask you something. If Earth requested assistance, would the Coalition help us?" It was the question he had been expecting. For 5 years. The world that had exiled him, calling for help from the man they had branded a war criminal. "Earth made its choice when it threw me out," he said finally. "Live with the consequences." He cut the transmission, but the conversation troubled him more than he wanted to admit. Earth was still his homeworld, whatever the politicians had done to him. And the people living there were not responsible for the Council's decisions. "Sir," said Gorth, who had been quietly listening, "the Titan clans have a saying, 'Honor comes not from who wrongs you, but from how you respond to being wronged.'" Taemin looked at his massive friend. "And what does that mean in this situation?" "It means the choice you make will define who you are. Will you be the man who saves those who cast him out, or the man who watches them burn?" Before Taemin could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Han rushed to his console, his face pale as he read the incoming data. "Sir, the unknown fleet has accelerated. They'll reach Coalition space in 3 months, not 6. And there's something else. Our scouts report they're destroying everything in their path. Not conquering, not taking prisoners, just erasing." The war room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. Whatever was coming from the void was not interested in negotiation or surrender. It was an extinction event. "All right," Taemin said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat. "Send recall orders to all fleet units. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from border systems." And he paused, making a decision that would define his legacy. "Send another message to all major governments. Tell them the Coalition is willing to coordinate joint defensive efforts against this threat." "Even Earth?" Wu Jin asked. Taemin thought of Park So-ra's frightened face, of the billions of people on Earth who had never voted to exile him. "Even Earth, but make it clear. If they want our help, they'll accept our terms. No political games, no committee. Decisions. One supreme commander with total authority to direct the defense." Nilara smiled slightly. "And I assume you have someone in mind for that position?" "I have someone who spent 5 years preparing for exactly this kind of threat," Taemin replied. "Someone who understands that survival matters more than politics." His staff moved to carry out his orders. Taemin returned to studying the tactical displays. The unknown fleet was vast and powerful, but they had advantages the enemy might not expect. The Coalition had learned to unite different species, different technologies, different ways of thinking. If the galaxy was going to survive, it would need everything the Coalition had built, and everything they had learned about turning outcasts into heroes. The Void Devourers struck without warning, exactly as Taemin had predicted. The first colonies to fall were on the galactic rim, far from the major powers. When the survivors' desperate messages reached civilized space, most governments still refused to believe the reports. Ships the size of cities, they said. Weapons that could crack planets. Invaders that showed no interest in communication or surrender. Everything in their path was simply destroyed, consumed, erased from existence. Taemin watched the reports from his command center on New Haven Station. The tactical display showed red zones spreading like a disease across the galaxy's edge. Each red mark represented billions of dead. "The Krek's border fleet is gone," reported Han, his voice tight with stress. 1,200 ships destroyed in less than 6 hours. The survivors say the enemy weapons pass right through shields like they don't exist. General Vextar growled in frustration. "Impossible. Krek's shields are the strongest in the galaxy." "Not against this technology," said Da Yun, studying the sensor data from the battle. Their weapons seem to disrupt matter at the molecular level. Our conventional defenses are useless. Nilara entered the command center, her face pale from the psychic feedback of so many deaths. I can sense the terror from here, thousands of light years away. Entire worlds screaming at once then. Silence. The communication board lit up with incoming messages, desperate pleas for help from dozens of systems, demands for immediate coalition assistance. And finally, the call Tai Min had been expecting. Park So-ra's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, the Earth Defense Corps Command Center was chaos. Officers ran between stations while alarms blared in the background. Tai Min, she said without preamble, they're here. 3 Devourer fleets just entered the Sol system. Our outer defenses are already gone. Tai Min could see the tactical displays behind her. Earth's rebuilt fleet was tiny compared to what was attacking them. The few hundred ships that survived the budget cuts were scattered and outgunned. How long can you hold them? He asked. Hours, maybe less. They destroyed the Mars defense grid in 20 minutes. Her voice cracked slightly. Tai Min, I know what we did to you. I know you have every right to let us burn. But there are 8 billion people on Earth who never voted to exile you. The bridge of his flagship fell silent. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what their leader would do. The man who had been cast out as a war criminal, faced with the chance to save the world that had rejected him. What are you offering? Tai Min asked. Complete surrender of Earth's military command to the coalition. No conditions, no political oversight. You would have total authority over our defenses. It was more than he had expected, more than he had dreamed of during the long years of exile. Sir, said Kim Woo-jin quietly, the fleet is ready to jump. All ships report combat readiness. Tai Min looked around the bridge at the faces of people who had followed him from a dozen different worlds. Humans, Kreks, Zephyrians, Titans, and others who had found purpose in the coalition's cause. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All ships, jump to Earth space. Maximum speed. The hyperspace jump took 3 hours. When the coalition fleet emerged near Earth, the battle was already raging. Massive Devourer ships moved through the system like dark angels of death, their weapons carving through Earth's defenders with casual ease. But Tai Min's arrival changed everything. All ships, engage immediately, he commanded. Target pattern Alpha 7. Use the new molecular disruption countermeasures. The coalition fleet was larger than Earth's entire military. More than that, it was experienced. These ships had fought together for years, their crews trained in tactics that no single-species military could match. Zephyrian telepaths coordinated attacks with perfect timing. Krek's heavy cruisers absorbed enemy fire, while human destroyers struck like surgical knives. Titan assault ships boarded Devourer vessels, their warriors fighting with unstoppable fury in the enemy corridors. But the real advantage was the technology Da-Un had developed. The coalition's weapons were specifically designed to counter the Devourer's molecular disruption fields. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien attackers faced weapons that could actually hurt them. The Battle of Sol lasted 12 hours. When it ended, the Devourer fleet was destroyed, but the cost was enormous. Nearly half of Tai Min's ships were gone, including many he had served with since the early days of exile. Kim Woo-jin's ship was among the casualties. Tai Min's oldest friend had died ramming his crippled cruiser into a Devourer command ship, saving Earth's moon colonies from destruction. Standing in the ruins of Geneva, where the Earth Council had once condemned him, Tai Min faced the surviving government leaders. The Great Assembly Hall was damaged from orbital bombardment, its windows blown out and debris scattered across the floor. You wanted to surrender your military command, he said to the frightened politicians. I accept. Effective immediately, Earth's defenses are under coalition authority. Council President Harrison, looking much older than when he had pronounced Tai Min's exile, stepped forward. What? What are your terms? Simple. Earth becomes a full member of the Free Sector Coalition. Your people get the same rights and protections as any coalition citizen. Your military is rebuilt according to coalition standards, and your leaders learn to think beyond their own small planet. And in return, when the Devourers come back, and they will come back, Earth survives. Park So-ra approached him as the politicians debated amongst themselves. She looked older, worn down by years of trying to prepare for threats that the Council refused to acknowledge. "I need to ask you something," she said quietly. "The man I knew 5 years ago would have saved us and asked for nothing in return. This feels like conquest." Taemin studied her face, remembering the woman who had once been the center of his world. "The man you knew 5 years ago believed in the goodness of people, believed that doing the right thing would be rewarded. That man was naive. And what are you now? I'm what exile made me. Someone who understands that good intentions aren't enough, that sometimes you have to take power from people who can't use it properly for their own good." She was quiet for a moment. "You've changed." "Yes," he agreed. "I've learned that the galaxy is full of threats that won't be stopped by committee meetings and diplomatic protests. Earth chose weakness. I chose strength. Is there nothing left of the man I loved?" Taemin looked out through the broken windows at the coalition ships in orbit, their lights visible even in daylight. Ships crewed by beings from a dozen species, united in purpose and loyalty. "He's still here," he said finally. "But he's learned to put humanity's survival ahead of his personal feelings. Earth can join the coalition as an equal partner, or it can remain a protected dependent, but it will never again be allowed to make decisions that endanger human survival." The Council's debate ended with complete capitulation. Earth would join the coalition, accept its laws and leadership, and begin the long process of rebuilding itself into something worthy of survival. As Taemin's shuttle lifted off from Earth's surface for the last time, he thought about Kim Woo-jin's sacrifice and the thousands of others who had died to save the world that had cast them out. They had returned not as beggars seeking forgiveness, but as saviors demanding surrender. The exile had become an emperor, whether he wanted the title or not, but in the darkness between stars, the Devourers were regrouping. This battle was won, but the war for the galaxy's survival had only just begun. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, Taemin stood in his temporary office in what had once been the United Nations building. The room overlooked New York Harbor, where coalition ships moved in steady patterns, bringing supplies and taking away refugees who wanted to start new lives in the outer systems. Earth was changing rapidly under coalition rule. The old bureaucratic systems were being replaced with efficient military administration. Corruption had been eliminated through simple methods. Competence was rewarded, failure was punished, and everyone understood the rules. "The monthly progress report," said Han, placing a datapad on the desk. Taemin's former intelligence officer had become Earth's new planetary administrator, chosen for his ability to get things done rather than his political connections. The numbers were impressive. Earth's military had grown from a few hundred obsolete ships to a modern fleet of 2,000 vessels. Unemployment had dropped to near zero as coalition engineering projects created millions of jobs. Most importantly, the population was beginning to believe in the future again. But success came with costs that Taemin felt every day. "Sir," Han continued, "we have 3 requests for meetings today. The European Federation wants to discuss resource allocation. The African Union has questions about the new military draft policies, and..." He hesitated. "Park So-ra wants to see you. Personal matter," she says. Taemin nodded wearily. Leading an empire was more exhausting than fighting wars. Every decision affected millions of lives, and there were always more problems than solutions. "Send her in first," he decided. "The others can wait." Park So-ra entered the office wearing the simple gray uniform of a coalition administrator. Her old political clothes and fancy titles were gone, replaced by the practical authority of someone who had proven herself useful. "Taemin," she said, sitting across from his desk, "I wanted to talk to you about something personal." He gestured for her to continue, though he suspected what was coming. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Coming back to save us, I mean. You could have let Earth burn and built your empire somewhere else." "The thought occurred to me," he admitted. "It would have been simpler. But you came anyway. Why?" Taemin looked out the window at the harbor where a coalition transport was unloading medical supplies for the refugee camps. "Because that's what leaders do. They make the hard choices so others don't have to. Is that all we are to you now? Just another world to be managed?" He turned back to meet her eyes. "You're the world that created me, then threw me away when I became inconvenient. But you're also the world where 8 billion people live and dream and hope for tomorrow. I couldn't let those people die for the mistakes of their leaders." Sora was quiet for a moment. "You've become something I don't recognize. The man I loved would never have taken control of an entire planet." "The man you loved was weak," Taemin replied without anger. "He believed that good intentions were enough, that truth would always win over politics. That man was destroyed the day you voted to exile him. And what did he become? Someone who understands that power unused is power. Wasted, that sometimes you have to force people to do the right thing for their own good." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Coalition's deep space monitoring stations. Daun's face appeared on the wall screen, her expression grim. "Sir, we're picking up massive fleet movements in the Void Sector. Again. The Devourers are coming back, and they're bringing friends. Our estimates suggest at least 50,000 ships this time." Taemin felt his blood turn cold. 50,000 ships would be enough to sterilize half the galaxy. "How long do we have?" 4 months, maybe 5. "They're moving slower this time, probably consolidating their forces for a final push. Begin immediate preparations for Operation Final Stand," Taemin ordered. "Full mobilization of all coalition forces, and contact every major government in the galaxy. Tell them it's time to choose. Unite under coalition command or face extinction alone." As Daun's image faded, Sora stared at him. "You're talking about taking control of the entire galaxy." "I'm talking about saving it," Taemin corrected. "The Galactic Council has proven it can't make hard decisions. Individual governments care more about their own territory than galactic survival. Someone has to coordinate the defense, and it might as well be us. Because you know better than everyone else. Because we've already proven we can unite different species and make them stronger together. That's what this war requires." Over the following weeks, the galaxy's response to Taemin's ultimatum varied widely. Some governments, terrified by reports of the approaching Devourer fleet, immediately requested coalition protection. Others declared that they would rather die free than live under human rule. The Krex Empire's response was typical of their warrior culture. Emperor Thaklor himself contacted Taemin directly. "Human," the massive reptilian ruler growled. "You dare to demand our surrender?" "I demand your cooperation," Taemin replied calmly. "The Devourers don't care about your empire's pride. They'll consume your worlds just as easily as anyone else's. And what makes you think you can succeed where we would fail? Because I've already defeated them once. Because my forces are trained to fight as one instead of competing for glory. And because I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to win." The Krex Emperor considered this for a long moment. "Very well. The Empire will accept coalition command for the duration of this crisis. But know this, human. When the war is over, we will remember who gave us orders." "I'm counting on it," Taemin replied. Similar negotiations took place across the galaxy. The peaceful Zephyrian collective agreed. Immediately, their telepaths having sensed the approaching destruction, the militant Titan clans demanded single combat between their champions and coalition warriors, a challenge that Gorth accepted and won decisively. But not everyone could be convinced. the Andorian Syndicate declared independence and fortified their core systems. Several minor empires formed their own defensive alliance, refusing to submit to what they called human imperialism. "Let them try to stand alone," Taemin told his staff when the final responses were tallied. "When the Devourers come, they'll learn the price of pride." As the months passed, the Coalition's transformation of galactic society accelerated. Trade. Routes were reorganized for maximum efficiency. Military forces were integrated and retrained using Coalition tactics. Most importantly, the different species began to see themselves as part of something larger than their individual worlds. Choi. Dayun's research teams, now expanded with scientists from dozens of species, made breakthrough discoveries almost daily. New weapons, better shields, faster ships, everything they might need for the coming battle. But as the final confrontation approached, Taemin found himself increasingly isolated. The weight of command had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand. "Sir," said Gorth one evening as they reviewed battle plans, "the Titan clans have a legend about leaders who save their people. It says that great commanders win battles by becoming monsters so their soldiers can remain human. And what does that mean? It means the choices you make in the coming war will define who you are forever. Win or lose, you'll never be the man you were before." Taemin nodded, understanding. "Then I'll become whatever the galaxy needs me to be." Standing on the bridge of his flagship as the massive Coalition fleet prepared for humanity's greatest battle, Taemin thought about the journey that had brought him here. From exiled admiral to galactic emperor, from outcast to savior. In a few hours, the Devourer fleet would arrive. The fate of every living thing in the galaxy would be decided by the choices he made in the coming battle. He thought of Kim Woo-jin's sacrifice, of all the loyal followers who had died for his vision. He thought of Park So-ra's words about becoming something unrecognizable. And he thought of the billions of beings across thousands of worlds who were counting on him to save them. "All ships report ready, sir," announced his tactical officer. "Then let's finish what we started," Taemin said quietly. "For humanity, for the galaxy, for everyone who believes that survival is worth fighting for, the final battle was about to begin, and Lee Taemin would face it not as the man he had been, but as the emperor that exile had forged him to become.